Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. Today's episode we're going to talk about parasites and then walk-ins, and the idea is to kind of decipher between what is one and what is the other. Because I think sometimes there's confusion as to, like, some people confuse one with the other, or that they seem kind of similar, or I don't know. The topic came up because we were speaking on the Telegram group of the Patreon members, and we were talking about the fact that there's some spiritual people that all of a sudden like flip and take a 180 with like their work, and like just decide like their work is, I don't know, shouldn't be used anymore. It's not valuable anymore, and I don't know. So I don't know the person they were talking about specifically. But the interesting part of the whole conversation was because everyone kind of was trying to understand what was going on. And then some people's opinions were, I think maybe it's a parasite, and other people's opinion was, well, maybe it's a walk-in. And so that we started realizing what's the difference. Some people were like, wait. So I thought, okay, let's
come up a bunch on the Patreon group, right? That's what
I was just talking about.
Yeah. Because I mean, previous to this time, I remember like months ago or even like years ago, it was something that we like brought up, but I don't know if we ever fully.
We were going to do. I was going to do a whole episode on the Patreon about walk-ins, but the thing is, I usually do votes, not all the time, but I tend to do votes where I'll give 3 subjects, and then everyone will vote what they prefer me to talk about that month, and then I'll talk about that. So more than once, I've put walk-in as a subject, and there's quite a few people that really want that one to win, but other subjects end up taking like priority.
And maybe so that's it.
Yeah, and so I never got around to doing an episode on Patreon about walk-ins because of that. But here, this episode, the idea is for us to kind of like understand the difference between like parasites and walk-ins, because there is a massive difference. And I think that by the way, I'm going to say this before we go on. The restaurant downstairs has music on, so hopefully you guys can't hear it.
Yeah, and I'm having technical issues again.
So we'll see how this recording goes. The music is nice and calm. It's not bad, so.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess.
So I think that you don't know the difference.
I'm not into all that stuff much. Like, I don't look, it's not information like I look up. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't look it up. I don't know how I know. It's just stuff that I kind of learned, and I figured, I don't know. I mean, you have to remember, if you zoom all the way back to the time where I worked like here and came in at the bookstore, I have a lot of books. I really got into reading all the books by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Mm-hmm. Do you remember who they are?
I remember, yeah.
So Ed and Lorraine Warren are the demonologist, and I think they've both passed away now. I know that Ed had passed away first, and then I think Lorraine passed. Did she? Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I should Google that. I actually don't know. I know that Ed passed away, but I know their grandson is kind of taking the work. I know that the grandson's doing the work, that like kind of like picking up where his grandparents, kind of the things that they were doing. Oh, so they some of the cases that they worked. Okay, interesting, because I just Googled it. Some of the cases that they worked that I totally forgot to name is like The Conjuring. People that are really into those like movies. Mm-hmm. So the movie The Conjuring, and apparently there's a Conjuring 2. I never watched it. Those are the cases that they worked, and then the Amityville Horror House.
The Amityville, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another case that they worked. And so those are true stories based on the investigations and the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Yeah, so Lorraine Lorraine passed away in 2019. You see, it was super recent. Yeah.
What about her husband? When did he pass?
let's see, Ed Warren. It was before her, I know that. I just don't know what year. 2006. So he passed away in 2006, and she passed away in 2019. And she's clairvoyant, or she was clairvoyant. So they would go to cases, but she would also do perceiving. And then Ed was a demonologist, so I think he was able to kind of help do work to help like exorcisms and stuff like that, or assist them at least. I can't remember those details about their backgrounds and their studies, but I went down the whole, like, all the books. I went down the whole thing, and I was really into those cases because I find it fascinating that there's this whole being, whether that be a bad being or a good being, but there's this entire being trying to take over somebody's body, or trying to manifest in an entire house. Like, a lot of them, the cases they worked were poltergeist.
It's really scary.
Yeah, so they would do cases where all the kitchen, all the drawers and everything, the people would leave their to the living room, and when they would come back to the kitchen, all of the cabinet doors would be open, all the drawers would be out. Like, we're talking insane activity, not like just like a little chair like moving every once in a while. Yeah. Like, it was insane. Mm-hmm. And there was this one famous video that they have where they went to the house, and there was someone sitting on a chair, and that chair was moving while someone was sitting on it.
I would freak out.
I know. And so the books that I was reading were basically talks about the cases of like what the families went through, like all the activity and the things they went through. So yeah, so I knew about that, and that's what led me to understand the difference between like a haunting and poltergeist, but also like what are parasites. And this is what I understand. There could be parts of it that maybe I have not fully developed because I've not this hasn't been like a whole field of study or anything for me, right? But what I understand from my perception is that there's these, I guess you said lower frequency, lower vibrational beings, to not call them like negative entities, I guess. They don't have the right to have a body. They cannot have like we do. Like Lorena got to like sign a contract and come and have a whole experience, right? Like your soul got to come and be Lorena, and my soul got to come and be Lucia, and they had the right to grab a body on Earth. Well, these beings, they can't have that right. They don't have that right to like sign a contract and have a body of their own experience, right?
Right.
But also they're lower frequency, and they're not what they're trying to do is not good things. They're trying to disturb you. But also to be able to take over your body. Well, I mean, if they got the body, their idea is not to do good things. It's usually to like take over your body to go like do really bad things. To say, like, you'll have cases where people will be like, I was possessed and I don't remember killing this person. Like, you'll have cases like that. Wow. And so it was possession. The person wasn't really there. Their consciousness wasn't there. It was the other being that was doing the whole thing. So the idea is to take over your body, not to do good things. It's a negative thing. But at the same time, there's only one way that they can take over your body, and that's lower your frequency. They have to lower your frequency. And then they do something that I guess you could call slow attachment, where very slowly they start attaching themselves to the person, and the person starts getting really angry really easily and really frustrated, and like things like that. Like their character starts changing. Their form of reacting to things start changing.
They don't feel like themselves.
They don't feel like themselves. Yes. Yes. Their thought form also begins to change. It's not just the way they're acting. It's the way they're actually thinking. And those are called parasitic thoughts. Those are parasites. Do you remember the episode where I told you that every time I saw something like bad happen, I would blow it up?
Yeah. Okay.
I was getting rid of any parasite trying to disturb my frequency. Sometimes they'll try to see if they can come in and throw like a bad image, so you go and you have like a bit of mini panic attack, and you imagine like, I don't know, I imagine you getting run over, Lorena. I'm like, oh, it just flashes in your mind.
Yeah.
A lot of times those are parasites trying to creep in to see if they can like lower the frequency, right? If they do it with someone that has abilities and is a channel, that's even greater. Because they're coming into a body that they can, for example, they come into a body and use that clairvoyancy to do something with it. Right? So
I'm going to put this question out there.
Okay.
we obviously we're kind of out of the pandemic now, but during the pandemic, do you think that with all of the fear, this low vibrational energy that we were all living, do you think it was easier during that time for that kind of stuff to happen?
100%.
It feels like it was.
Yeah, 100%. Because they have to lower your frequency. They have to make you feel low vibrational things, and fear is one of them.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get into the trap of lowering your frequency, then you're easy bait is the word. You become easy bait for those parasitic beings. Parasites because we have parasites living in our body. It's parasites because the body doesn't pass away, and they don't want you to die. They don't want you to pass away. What they want is for you to lower your frequency so you get so weak that they can then take over the body, because they don't want the body to die. They want to use your body.
Mm. Wow.
So, for example, you'll hear a lot of people say the word spirits for alcohol. And so some people say that it's because a spirit can take over. It's spirits, right? And so the reality of alcohol is, and you guys know I love wine with my food and stuff, but the reality is it doesn't matter which alcohol, if you're drinking vodka or if you're drinking wine, it doesn't matter. It lowers your frequency. And so people that get, for example, very, very drunk, they become easy bait. Because their frequency is on a consistent basis. Maybe they're getting drunk every weekend, for example. You then become super easy bait because you're lowering your frequency quite often and very low, because the more you drink, the more it lowers your frequency. Then you start becoming much more easier for them to start attaching to you. That's the first step, kind of like attaching to you.
That's so funny. I was, I don't know why it came up on like TikTok or something. Somebody explaining it the same way you are about alcohol, and how it's like your soul, like I don't know how you just explained it, but it's the same exact thing you just said. And I sent it to Julio on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
And then we started talking about alcohol and how like I also haven't drank in a while.
I've been completely off it. Even though you guys know I love wine, I've been completely off it.
Yeah, and I never drink anyway if I'm doing reading, so I've been busy, which is good, I suppose, in that sense. But I mean, even if we look at it in the channeling sense, like helping others, you want to do everything you can to have your energy at the right, like just at the right level, I guess. I don't know.
Which is why we would never see us drinking alcohol the day before like a reading, right? We always, and I as well, like I would do readings, and it's usually Monday to Friday. And then, so Monday to Friday, I wouldn't even have one glass. So even though I love having wine with dinner, it was actually a rare thing for me because of all the readings I was always doing, or the channeling, right? Yeah. But, so it's just a frequency thing. And I know it triggers a lot of people. Sometimes we'll have this conversation with people, and a lot of people, people get really triggered by it. People get really triggered by
alcohol?
Yeah, with you saying that about alcohol. And it's not like I've never pointed the finger at people and said, you're really, you're really irresponsible, or you're being really shitty because you're drinking wine. No, because I also say that I do it, but it's like, I know it. When I do it, I know that I shouldn't, in the sense of frequency.
But it makes sense because it's also connected to health, and there's so many studies now that show that even if you have one drink, it significantly, like one drink a week, it significantly higher your like probability of getting cancer, for example, or certain illnesses. So it makes sense because it's bringing your immune system down. So you're vibrating at a lower frequency, and that will obviously have some kind of impact energetically on you vibrationally.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about like what other things can lower your frequency, because of course it's not just alcohol. And another one that's like a lot really disturbing to people sometimes to hear is meat. The reality is meat does lower your frequency. So that's another.
Eat meat.
I know. It does lower your frequency, and the idea is that there's karma attached to that animal that you're ingesting, and there's this whole, and I think a lot of people be like, oh, but isn't there a soul? Like we've talked about this before. Isn't there a soul in vegetables? Actually, no. The fruit has energy from the rest of for example, apple. The apple has energy from the rest of the tree. The soul is in the tree, not in the apple. So what you're supposed to do when you go to eat fruit and vegetables and stuff, you're supposed to give the plant its opportunity to get to take energy off of the section that you're going to take off. So you're actually supposed to ask permission and say, for example, lettuce. You're going to cut the bottom of the lettuce and you can leave the head of the lettuce, right? Or I don't know. Let's just say the apple. Let's go back to the apple. It's easier. You're going to pick one of those apples. And so you're supposed to go to the tree and talk to the tree and say, listen, this apple right here, I'm going to be picking it. Can you just let me know when I can pick it when your energy's out of it? Because it hurts the plant. Like it disturbs the energy of the plant. And so then supposedly you're supposed to feel into it. They say everything cycles of 3. So it could be 3 hours till you're like, oh, I feel like I can pick it now. Maybe the tree kind of is letting me know. Or maybe it's 3 days. I don't know. Like, I don't have the numbers for that. I would do it with my plants at the house. And I would just ask for permission. And then sometimes I'd be like, oh man, like, I think it's time. But then I would pick it when I thought it was time. But I would try to see, has it been 3 hours? Has it been 3 days? Has it been 3 weeks? Like, kind of like that. Because it's usually cycles of 3 for these plants.
Yeah.
So you're not.
The reality is most people won't be able to do that. They're going to a grocery store, right?
Yeah, but
so how do they do that?
I'm talking about like we as a collective need to start doing things differently. So that's how our farmers should be doing it. And then if we grow our own food, that's how we should be doing it. I mean, we need to change the way we do everything.
We have to change a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, another thing that lowers your frequency is actually, and something that I used to love doing, and it's scary movies. Like watching scary movies lowers your frequency as well. So what you're watching, or violent movies, or like, things like that, that lowers your frequency. So we're supposed to stay away from that.
Like a complicated emotional state, right?
Yeah, it's like fear, or you could be watching a movie that's like, has you on the edge of your seat, right? That could be considered, depending on how much in the edge of the seat you are, that could be lowering your frequency, even though we don't fully realize it. We're just entertained, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then obviously emotions, like lower vibrational emotions, are going to lower your frequency. That's a given, like on a day-to-day basis.
Deal with your emotions.
Yeah, if you get triggered, try to sift through it and recognize it and get it out, because that's lowering your frequency as well. And then I think that, like, have you ever realized that people that have, like, I mean, if you go back to addiction, right? Whether that's alcohol and drugs, of course, lowers your frequency. Let's say that you're an individual, maybe like you have an addiction, or you know someone that has an addiction, whether that be drugs or alcohol. You could realize that they get easily tempered. And a lot of times that's associated with the addiction in itself. But I think that there's another perspective to that, and that's their frequency so low that they just can't handle all the stuff, and they're handling it from a lower frequency. The reaction is that lower frequency all the time.
Yeah.
So that is all the best way for an individual to start beginning to have parasitic kind of thought forms. They begin with that, and then the attachment begins. I mean, there's demonologists probably that explain this in a different way and much better. But I'm just going generally speaking. And then they start kind of slowly attaching themselves. And then they can take over the person's body. And then the person, it's like they're not there. I don't know what happens to their soul or their consciousness, because it's like almost like they're in a coma state. Like they'll come back. It's like the beginning is like spells of moments where like the person will be taken over for like an hour, or maybe like, 30 minutes, and when they come back they'll have like it's like blacked out, like they don't remember anything that happened in that time.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it turns into like more than 30 minutes and more than an hour, so it's a slow process. It's very interesting.
So you mentioned before something about the difference between what was the word you used? You were talking about like walk-ins, or no, you said something about like, oh my God, a movie's coming to me. I'm thinking Poltergeist. What? Oh gosh, I don't even know what I'm saying.
The difference between parasites and walk-ins.
Yeah, I think that was it. But you said something about like demonologist, and then you were talking about like, what is it like when somebody from like a religious kind of background comes in and they like extract that spirit from the person's body? exorcism. That's it. I couldn't think
Yeah,
of the
they
word.
need to
Oh my
detach
gosh.
the being from the
Yeah.
person. They need to get it out. It's latched on,
Yeah.
sort of say. Yeah. So that's a parasite. So if I had to wrap it up in a neat little bubble so we can, when we end this episode, we understand the difference. Parasites don't have the right to have a body, and they're going to try to take someone else's body who does have the right to and has a contract with that body. So there's no permission. Right? There's no
Okay.
permission. Okay. So let's talk about walk-ins. Okay, now let's go to walk-ins.
Okay, now let's go to it. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say that, Lorena, you have, I don't know, you have a contract with the body that is Lorena, and you decided that you were going to leave it when you were 30, for example, right? So your soul says, yeah, I'm going to leave, this lifetime, I'm probably going to get all done, and the probability line is I'll be leaving at 30. And then another soul comes in and says, hey, actually, since you don't need the body after 30, this is kind of what I need to do and go on Earth. And I really don't need to have the experience of being a baby. I'm just coming in for something else. Do you mind? So there's permission, of course. It's almost like the two souls have a conversation in a way. It's like, do you mind if I pop in when you pop out and I just carry on the lifetime? And then that soul, the original, Lorena's original soul will say, I have no problem with that. That's actually fine. Also, it's going to help my family because they're not going to grieve my loss. I'm just going to have a little bit of character change maybe, but that's about it. They'll never notice.
Yeah,
no one will notice.
Yes, I remember we did we talk about this on an episode before, or was this on Patreon?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember. We've talked about so many things here.
I don't remember, but we talked about it either on the Patreon or on the podcast.
Pretty sure it was a Patreon, but I remember talking about, and I remember asking something like, it's interesting because if you think about it, it's like, is it that noticeable for the people outside of that soul?
It can be. It's usually positive changes. So that's the difference. Parasitic beings are the low vibrational beings. So the person becomes hot-tempered, easily disturbed, raging, like all these low frequency stuff. When it's a walk-in, usually it's a more improved soul or more progressed soul. So when it comes in, the changes that are noticeable is like, wow, he seems like more calm and patient for some. Lorena seems more calm and patient for some reason. I don't know what's up with Lorena, but it seems like she's just like, it's like she's on something. It's like she's on a roll or something. And you can't figure out, but the person doesn't know. So Here's the thing. The soul that's coming into Lorena's body at 30 in this scenario, Lorena's not going to, they're not going to lose all the Lorena memories. Lorena memories is going to still be there. So when this other soul comes in, some souls will remember that came in as walk-ins. They'll remember, they'll like realize, I just got here. But the majority of the souls from the era of our time, from like now to back before us, those souls don't tend to remember. But the new era of walk-ins that are coming in are supposed to start remembering, because they're here to the walk-ins we have coming in now are here for a solution to a problem that we have. And so the idea is that a lot of them will, if not remember that, like the contract and what they're here, they'll remember a lot. And the idea is it's part of our evolutionary process. They're here to help us. So if you tell me that there's a that somebody just came in, and I don't know, someone comes tomorrow to get a reading and says, listen, I am a walk-in and I remember, I'd be like, oh, awesome. Like I would feel honored almost to have a reading with them, right? Because I know that
that would be cool.
Yeah, they're a solution to a problem. They're here for that. And they actually remember, for example, right?
Would those souls, do you feel, would be definitely like star seeds then?
Those are definitely star seeds, yes. So I think I would label all walk-ins. Probably all walk-ins are. 85% maybe are probably
the majority.
The majority are star seeds, because there's no other reason for a soul to just come and walk in the scenario that we're talking, right? Sort of say, because if it's not a star seed, If it's not a star seed, then they usually want the experience of being a baby, because it's part of their evolutionary growth. Like being a baby being born is a lot of experience for a soul.
Yeah.
And so, a walk-in is avoiding the whole work of having to get the body to adult form, waiting for the brain to develop to actually do good work. They're walking in with everything already developed, going, okay, let's get going. Let's get done.
And they're choosing it in a sense, too, of how that person's living and for them to be able to accomplish something or help, right?
Yeah. So cosmic you, my course, right? I haven't gotten to this field yet, but the idea is to understand that we're not going to see all those low vibrational entities and beings. Well, no, those low vibrational characters is a word. Those low vibrational characters that play part of our society, like politicians and things, we're not going to see them drop dead and disappear because they can't change from 3D to 5D. We're going to have walk-ins go into those bodies. And then we'll be like, I hate that politician, but then all of a sudden he starts doing some good work and you're like, what?
That'd be great.
That's supposedly the plan.
Yeah.
That's supposedly the plan. Slowly walk-ins will take over the bodies of those beings that have more of a political position and power on our planet. And that's how we start slowly sifting out and taking out the 3D control. But the idea is they're not going to, I don't think they're going to completely do overnight, because another thing in the contract is we're supposed to take our power back. So we have to learn to do that as well.
But do you think, because the thing that I kind of think about when we're talking about like them, for it all to come in to help, right? What if some of these souls don't want walk-ins?
They have to leave. If their soul, most of those souls signed a contract that says I will only be here for 3D. If they're here to change to 5D, if they did sign a contract that says I'm here to change to the 5D, then they have to have some sort of awakening or change in consciousness where they realize what they've been doing and they repent it and then they change. So there has to be a change. If not, the body has to pass away and they have to go because their soul cannot evolve with the times. I mean, we're talking about the next 20, like now to like 20 years. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow, all of it, right? Because in 2075 is supposedly the year where there will be no more 3D on planet Earth. There will be no more. And if an individual body and in consciousness signed a contract to only be in 3D and or has not evolved past 3D, then they have to go.
Wow.
Yeah. So another solution to not half of the world dropping dead is having a bunch of starseeds come in as walk-ins to take over those bodies, so there's not so much trauma for the human collective that's trying to evolve. So it might even be your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. It might be someone you know in your proximity who, like, one day you realize just had a massive shift and change, and you're like, what? Is this the same person?
It could be that the person actually did the changing, or it could be, right? Because it could be either or.
Yep. It could be either or, yeah.
Yeah.
But so when we talk about when someone, like the original idea of this episode was talking about how like some people will take a 180 on their like spiritual work, and then for them everything is negative and bad all of a sudden, and like they become very boxed in like this one idea can only be this, only this, right? That's what we were talking about. And the idea was, is it a parasite, is a walk-in? Personally, me, Lucia, I would say it can't be a walk-in, because that person would actually advance in their spiritual work and how they're helping humanity, not limiting them and putting them in structured boxes. So if you had to ask me, I don't think it's a walk-in at all.
Well, yeah.
At least in our era. I don't know how walk-ins functioned maybe like, I don't know, 100 years ago. I don't know. But in our era, the idea of walk-ins is it's not a negative change, it's a positive change.
Yeah, it's being used for the advancement of humanity and our lessons.
Yeah, and there's permission. So the soul that's coming in as a walk-in has permission from the original soul of that body. There's no taking over. There's no disrespect. There's a whole cycle of processes being taken place on the other side. One soul slowly coming down to prepare to come down to that body. The other soul is aware of that and is slowly retiring. Like there's a whole process behind it. It's not just something that's like, boom, it took over your body.
Do you think, I mean, just all these ideas and like questions are coming. Do you think like if that soul that's incarnated starts to sense that walk-in is close, could that help them change? Maybe if it's already to that point,
No,
maybe not.
once that's a point, because the contract's already signed, it's a done deal. Both souls will honor their side.
I always like to think of it. I'm like, well, maybe that'll help them change.
No, it's like
I'm just trying to be positive.
It's like if you signed, I don't know, think about it in a 3D way. Like you signed the mortgage to a house, and then you already signed it, but only a week passed. Hey, bank, can I just give you your money back? Can we just like cancel the whole mortgage? Like, I don't think you can do that. I'm not that smart about all that stuff, but I don't think you can do that. So it's almost like asking the spiritual world to do the same thing. The process already began. The contract's already signed. No. Yeah, it's too late. It's too late.
It's too late, yeah. It's such an interesting concept. It's not information I ever, like I said, I don't even like look into this stuff. Like I find all this stuff out through you.
I don't look into it either. It's just I happen to learn it. I don't know. I don't know how.
No, but it's because it's like information that just comes to you.
Sometimes, but sometimes it's the part of everything I study, and it's just part of understanding solutions that the administration has for our time and our era and our evolutionary plan. Because I do study a lot the evolutionary plan, because that's the idea of cosmic you, for us to understand. Because there's going to be a lot of disturbances, and there's going to be a lot of problems, and there's going to be a lot of collapsing of systems, right? And I mean, we put this episode up on like YouTube and stuff, and it goes out there, so I can't say too much. And even like the episode I did this week on Patreon, I talked about something that might be coming and my perspectives on it and warnings and stuff and how we can possibly avoid it. Like I can't talk about that here. I can't, because it's going to be shut down. So I don't know how to say this that I'm about to say without being shut down, but it's like, did you hear about a religious figure and something that happened with a child this week?
Yeah, I heard.
Okay. Hopefully everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've heard like two sides of it. It's really interesting. I don't know what to think.
So the idea, if you ask Lucia, the idea is that there's the four structures that are going to collapse, we know, are financial, medical, religious, and education.
Yeah.
So religious has to fall, and that's not just Catholic or Christian or Judaism. It's literally, it's even the people that we looked up to that were for us were like embodying perfection or enlightenment. It's seeing the truth behind all of that. And so sometimes certain positions out there in our reality need to be seen in a different light, so we can let go of that. I don't know, let go of it and let it collapse, I guess.
I guess, but I think it's more this empowerment that it creates for a lot of people.
And not give away your power completely to one person.
Yeah.
I really think that's just something that's been placed to help us let that system collapse, because it has to collapse.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes coming.
Oh yeah.
I feel that it does. I think it sometimes feels like the pandemic is like, it's like it was like a preview, and it prepared us energetically
the catalyst
for what's to come. It's for sure. But I mean, like, if we can get through that we can get through what's coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but we're still being tested, and that's what my Patreon episode was about. There's a big test coming. That's what my perspective on like what happened in 2020 was something that was really good for the human collective, and it helped a lot of people wake up. And it was like something, I believe, even though maybe a lot of people were harmed and things like that, and maybe a lot of people went into fear, it still woke up more people, right?
100%.
And it let us go on a path that we needed to begin to go on much more. But I think the big test that's coming, that I speak about in that episode in Patreon that I recorded this week, I don't think the same way about that. The scenario is coming to play out. I think it's a test to see, what did we learn from 2020?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are we going to put our foot down? Are we going to stand up for ourselves? Are we going to realize, how did this actually come into our reality? Was it pushed by someone, somewhere? And take our power back.
I agree with that fully.
So
That is a test. Yeah.
this time we need to stand up for ourselves. It is a test.
And it could be that or other things. So if it's not that, it'll be something else.
It's also
There'll
part of
be
the
more
collapse.
than one thing. Yeah. Many things are going to test us.
Things
in the
need to
next
show their
years.
ugly side for us to be like, let that shit collapse. It doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give an example.
Change.
Like, imagine you're in a relationship, like a toxic relationship, but the person has like 2-3 weeks where they're like really, really nice to you, and there's no toxicity, and there's no, I don't know, anything bad behavior or bad words or anything, right? And then it seems like you're back in like almost honeymoon era, and you're like, oh no, actually, I'm gonna stay here. It seems like it's going okay. But if that scenario changes up, and then that person shows their ugly colors for a month, at some point in that month you need to blow up and go, okay, no, this doesn't serve me anymore. Like, when will I learn my lesson? I gotta walk away. So all these structures are our toxic relationships, and we're still holding on to them and letting them be part of our reality. At some point they need to start showing their really ugly side, and the truth needs to come to light. Remember that Cash Record said, it's not that you're going to be living in a worse world. It's that light has to hit the dark for it to be revealed. So it's going to look like you're in a worse place, but you're just seeing what was always there. You just couldn't fully see it.
Yes.
So that toxic behavior needs to come to the surface, and we need to see it. So we go, why am I still in this relationship with religion, the government, the medical system, educational system, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So-
lots is coming. Lots of changes, lots of collapsing. It's like I like the way that we've explained it, and like how you just re-explained it. It's nothing new. It's just we weren't seeing it. I put myself in that too. There's things I couldn't see before. It wasn't something I was even trying to look at or understand. And today it's like, wow. Yeah.
I mean,
There's something going on.
There's some dark, like, I went down there and I looked at it all. I confronted it all. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't believe the stuff that I was finding out. And I knew that some of the stuff I'm like, I don't know. But the stuff that I knew was true, like, when I looked into it, even though I didn't want to believe it, but I knew it was true, I was like, what? I cannot believe this is what they've been doing this behind closed doors, or this was happening behind closed doors, and like, we're all totally oblivious to it, busy buying shoes and consuming. I don't know, right?
Yeah, living life.
Some people surviving, some people just surviving, some people consuming, some people addiction, some people other toxic relationships. And we just have been busy with something distracting us.
Yeah.
So supposedly there's this formula. I heard this recently and I said, oh, interesting. I never thought about that. Apparently there's a formula for awakening, for like a human to expand its consciousness. And it actually begins with the person going down the conspiracy rabbit hole, where they have to confront all the conspiracies, cipher through them. Some of them they'll decide, wow, this one's totally true to me. And this one, it's too much for me, I don't think so. But that's actually a part of the process that everyone on earth that's going to become fully conscious needs to go through. The ciphering through all the stuff of their reality, the rabbit holes of the conspiracies. Then at some point that needs to be kind of like, okay, the knowledge was absorbed, the understanding, I understand how my reality actually functions, and then has to move into spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Where the person begins the learning of how powerful you are as an individual, who you're connecting to, where you come from, what are you here to do, what is a part of the whole plan, and also how can I take my power back? Empowerment.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's the advancement of all this knowledge, which never stops. It keeps going. And then that moves on to the next kind of sort of stage, which is beginning to bring down the expansion, the abilities, like all your abilities, beginning to detox from all those toxic relationships, beginning to detox even the body, the mind, the spirit, the soul, and then allowing the detoxing of everything, then it starts expanding the consciousness where now the person's innate abilities start coming into play.
Yeah. Maybe that's why the pandemic was such a push for people to wake up, because it started with that, didn't it?
Yeah. A lot of people went down that rabbit hole, and you have to. Everyone's going to do it at some point. Everyone that wakes up is supposedly going to do it. That's the equation. Everyone that wakes up at some point goes down that route. They have to. Because we're coming out of duality.
Yeah.
Fifth dimension, there's no more duality. So that means that we have to confront the dark so we can embrace the light.
That's really interesting. I never saw it that way.
So is it possible that these people that we were talking about in the Telegram group that flip a 180 on their work, their spiritual work, and all of a sudden everything they did is like, is it possible that they're doing that? That that's just part of them going back to base and re-expanding again? I wonder. Maybe it's not a parasite. Maybe it's not it's not, to me it's not a walk-in. Maybe it's not a parasite. Maybe it's the person reconnecting with that rabbit hole scenario so they can kind of bounce back again. Because also ascension is not a straight line. It's, it's like the dips, right? You're going up, but the lows get low. The lowers get less low and the highers get more high, and it's the wave, right? Going up, wave. So maybe it's just the person hitting one of those dips so they can propulse themselves up again. I don't know. But I guess it depends on everybody and their plan, but
depends on their plan, their contract, their choices.
Oh, this is what the customer guards are telling me. Is it possible that some of those scenarios was implemented so that people can learn to question even who they're following?
Yep.
So that it brings them back to their empowerment. So it might not just be about that person, but it might be about that person's agreement to do that with the administration, so that the people can also begin to decipher through their own discernment.
Yeah, discern whatever they. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But begin to empower themselves and learn to get the information for themselves as well.
100%. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that was good. I didn't even. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that one, but yeah, that's true.
That's interesting.
That person must have. If someone signed a contract that says I'm going to help the evolution, it might be I'm going to bring down a bunch of really good information for people, and then I'm going to make them question it. And then they're being tested. Oh, I love it. That's brilliant, administration. That's brilliant. They're so fucking cheeky. Oh, man. That was good, yeah. I think that's a good way to, like, wrap it all up.
Yeah, I like it.
So, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're still, like, I don't know if people, because we have some, like, maybe new followers, like, we're limited to, like, how much we can say here. And I don't know if people know this, but we've been censored before on YouTube. Like, the warning is still there. It's still there.
Yep.
So we can't, like, just come out and say things openly. So I'm sorry. Hopefully everybody understood the part that I was talking about where I couldn't say exactly. But on Patreon, we're able to put up videos and audios, and it's on the Patreon. And for now, we've had no issues with censoring. And I've gone out of my way to say a lot of stuff, huh? For now, it's good.
I'm more careful just because, I don't go so much into the same topics, but I'm more careful because, I don't know how that works. If they censor you, if they just shut your account down, I don't know.
Well, the last episode, I didn't hold back.
Yeah.
So for now, we're good. We'll see. I got a strike. Yeah. No, it was a strike, a warning, something on Instagram the other day. The fact checkers decided something that I shared. Oh, can I even say that? Shit. No. No, I'm going to be censored for me saying that word. The people that check to see if things are true, they decided that something I had posted, I don't know how long ago that was, Lorena. That was a really old post or story that I shared a long time ago. They decided that what I shared wasn't true, and it was about grounding. It was about being healthy and grounded with Mother Earth and connecting with yourself and healing yourself. But apparently, I'm being dishonest.
Yeah, it's not correct.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good reminder. We have a Patreon. Check it out. We'll put the link on the show notes. I want to apologize for this audio again. I'm trying to figure out what is going on. I did all the updates, everything on my computer. I don't know what's going on.
You sound okay to me.
Yeah, it's because this is how you always hear me when we do these calls. But when you edit, it sounds very different. Anyway, so yeah, we still have our sale going on for our Akashic Record Level 1 and Level 2 courses. I'll put the link to that because there's a discount code where you get 23% off until the 23rd of April. So if you guys are interested in learning to open your own Akashic Records or open others' Akashic Records, I would highly recommend taking advantage of this discount. And yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else going on? Well, your Cosmic You course, of course. We'll put that link on the show notes. And yeah, I guess we'll be back next week with a new episode.
Yeah. Oh, just a quick reminder that we improved our website. I'm very happy about it.
It looks good.
And I improved my website. And so now you can finally, I realized that I didn't have half the links and stuff there to like all work. I'm like, what? I never did that. So I'm sorry, guys. But now I finally got around to fixing it. So it's much nicer now and it's much more developed. And you have all the links there as well. So you can just go to the website and find links to like our websites and then to Patreon and then to our academy and and all that stuff. And then my website also is improved as well. And yeah, nothing. We just a reminder that we both do Akashic Records readings dependently, but also we do something called dual reading, which we come together and read the person at the same time so they get information from both our channels. So just reminder.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fun. All right, yeah, we'll have everything linked on the show notes. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for episodes or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us on our contact form. We love hearing from all of you. And we'll see you guys next week with a new episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.